on Rattlesnake Workshop today I've got a vintage ROTEL RA310 amplifier. Now this amplifier is not working properly. It has got a volume dial that is seized and only just about moving, and a selector knob that is really rattly, and apparently this thing sounds really distorted and cuts in and out, and I can feel that volume is really hard to move, and if you look there, that selector is really wobbly. So the last owner did say that on the listing, that it had these two problems and it sounds distorted and cuts in and out, because I've only just bought this amplifier and I haven't even plugged it in to try it, because I can feel the volume is seized right up, and where the selector is really loose, plugging it in could do more damage to it. So I'm going to run right through it before I even plug it in, because I know it's got problems. I can feel them myself, so there's no point plugging it in because you just could cause more damage to it. So I'm going to go right through it before I even power it up, and then if it still has got problems, I can go through it more. I always do this with amplifiers. I run through them first. If I buy them not working, I'll go through them like this first before I even try them. If I bought one and the owner said it works, then yeah, I would try it all out before I do this to it. But because this one is not working, and I know it's not working, I'm going to service it and go right through it before I even power it on, just to see if that fixes it, or if it's still got problems, then I'll open it back up and go through it a bit more thorough. So I'm going to take the top panel off first. Now it should have 4 screws in it, but one is missing, so it has only got 3. So someone has probably had the top off of this before and lost one of the screws. So I'm looking inside it there. It's not actually that dirty inside. Some of these amplifiers, these old ones, when you take the lid off, they are just full of dirt and fluff and all sorts. They can be in a really bad state inside, but this one does look like this has been cleaned out before at some point, because it's not actually that dirty. It's a bit dirty, it needs cleaning, but it's not that bad in here. So for its age, this thing looks quite good inside. I'm looking round it now. None of the capacitors look swollen or black, and none of them look like they are leaking. I can't see any black marks anywhere where something has burnt out. All the solder joints look quite good. Nothing looks like it is cracked, so it all looks quite good so far. So there's the wobbly selector, and I did think that might have been the problem with it cutting in and out, but I don't think it is. That is just a little nut loose on the front. I did think it might have been one of them selectors that all bolts together at the back, and then if that was loose it would not be making connections properly, but it's not one of them, so I don't think that'd be the problem. That is just the little nut loose at the front that holds it onto the chassis, so I really don't think that would cause it to cut in and out. So I've turned it over. Let's take the bottom off and have a look inside the underneath of the ROTEL. So there's 8 screws holding this one on, and they are all there. None of these ones are missing. So it's got a nice little air vent underneath it, and that's going to be where the transformer is, to help keep the transformer cool. And I like these amplifiers like this, when they are all metal with a nice chassis, nice metal base plate, because a lot of them wouldn't be like this. A lot of these vintage amplifiers, the base plate is like a really thin bit of chipboard, but not this one. This one has got a full all metal chassis, which tells me that ROTEL built this properly. So although it is only a small low powered amplifier, this ROTEL would have been built and designed to sound as good as it could. This was not like cheaply done to be sold as a budget amplifier. So I'll put the base plate over there, and that is really nice and clean in there, but you do normally find that because they sit the other way up, all the dirt and bits collects in the top. So it's got the switches there, and I'm just looking at them. They're easy to deoxin. You can get deoxin into there, no trouble. Some of them are quite hard to do with deoxin, but not them ones. They are the ones that are easy to do. Same as the pots on this one. The pots on this one have got the little holes in them, so they're easy to get deoxin in there. Whereas some of them are really difficult to get deoxin in, but thankfully on this one it's easy. So let's get in there with my little brush and the hoover and just clean out the underneath while it's over this way, and then I shall turn it over and do the same to the top. And that's all you want to do if you want to clean out your amplifier at home. Just get a nice soft brush and do it like this with the hoover, because you brush the dust out, the hoover picks it up. But do use a soft brush, do not go in there with a hard brush, and be very careful round the little capacitors and the resistors and that. Try not to move them, just go round them nice and gently with the little brush and just let the hoover collect the dust and dirt. And it is worth doing this with your amplifier now and again, just to keep them nice and clean inside. And if you buy yourself an amplifier, like a second-hand one, it's worth doing this to it, because you never know, the previous owner might have stripped his speaker wires near it or above it or something, and a tiny little bit of copper could have gone in it, a little strand, and if that's laying somewhere where it shouldn't be, the amplifier will never sound right. And something as simple as that can really make one sound not as good as it can sound. So if you buy yourself a second-hand amplifier, it really is worth doing this to it with the hoover. Just give it a once over, and then you know there is nothing in there. Because what I said about the bit of copper in there, I have found that a few times when I've bought second-hand amplifiers that haven't sounded properly. It has been something as simple that there's been a bit of speaker wire in there, or the owner has stripped the plug above it, and some of them copper strands have gone in there and they're just sitting across the circuit boards and just making it not sound right. And I've had that a few times. And I once bought a vintage Pioneer, a nice big monster amp, big Pioneer, and I got it really cheap because as soon as you plugged it in, it blew all its fuses. And when I opened it up, it had 2p in it. Somehow 2p piece had got in there, and it had jammed itself right down the back in amongst all the wiring and was just shorting it right out. So that was a good buy, that one. I literally removed the 2p, put some new fuses in it, and then that old Pioneer was back working properly and sounded absolutely fantastic. So it just goes to show it's always worth taking the top and the bottom off and just have a look over it and hoover it out. So I've took one of the nice wooden sides off, and I'm just taking off the other one. Now there's just 2 screws hold these side panels on, and they're in nice condition, these wooden side panels. Now I know a lot of people when they do these strip downs, because I watch YouTube, they use a drill and do it quick, but I'm not like that. I do everything by hand, because I think with a drill you can easily strip stuff or over tighten stuff and ruin the thread, so I just do everything by hand, especially on these old amplifiers. They are old after all. So I'll just turn it round, and then we'll take the knobs off of the front and take off the faceplate. So I've got a little tool that makes it easy to do them little knobs on the front, get them off. It's only a little bit of plastic, but it's like pointed at one end, like a little shaped bit. I don't even know what it is or where it came from, but it works really well. So I just slide it behind, work it in, and it slides the little knobs off. Because don't use nothing metal on them, because you will scratch all the front. Or if you haven't got nothing to take them off and all you have is a screwdriver, then wrap some tape round the end of it first, and then when you use it, it won't damage the front panel. And I have used chopsticks before. They work really well. A little set of wooden chopsticks that you'd get in the local Chinese takeaway. They're only cheap and they work well for doing this. And them ones have come off easy. And this one's coming off alright, because I have found it a few times where people have glued these knobs on, where they like strip the splines on them, they've glued them back on, so when you go get them off, you just can't get them off, so you can't get your faceplate off because they've been glued on. So don't do that. If you strip the splines on your knob, don't glue it on, because there's an easy fix for that. Just wrap a thin piece of tin foil round the splines and then push the knob over the top of it, and it'll work again without using glue. So let's see how we get the faceplate off. Right, but by the look of that, it's got screws along the top, so I think you need to sort of undo the side and lift the faceplate up a little bit so I can get in there with a screwdriver. There's no screws at the bottom. No, it must be just take the screws out the sides, and then there's screws at the top, and then the faceplate should come off. And I need to take the faceplate off just to do that nut up on the selector that is loose. You got to take the plate off to get to that nut, otherwise I wouldn't bother taking this plate off. So there's 2 screws here on this side, and then 2 screws the same on the other side. And then there's 3 screws along the top, and I'm taking these one at the sides out so I can lean it forward a bit and get a screwdriver in there, because at the minute I think I'd struggle to get to them screws. I'd be trying to do it at such an angle I might damage the screws. So it'd be easy if I can just lean the faceplate forward a little bit. And it might make it easier when I do the deoxing if I can just move the plate about a bit. So I just turn it round now, them screws are out, and that plate will just lean forward enough to let me get in there with his screwdriver, because there is 3 screws along the top there, one either side and then one in the middle. And I think without moving this faceplate, I'd have struggled to have done it. I could have probably found a little tiny screwdriver to have got in there, but it was just as easy to whip them screws out the sides. And then this plate is just leant forward enough that I can get in there with this screwdriver. So let's just take that last screw out, and then hopefully the little faceplate will come off quite easily, because I can't see nothing else holding it, just these 3 screws. So that's it, the last one is out. So let's see how easy the faceplate comes off, because sometimes they're held on as well with like double-sided sticky strips. And then you take all the screws out and they still feel hard to come off, but it is only like stuck on. But no, that one's come off easy. So that is about as far as I'm going taking this thing apart. And there you can see, look, is that 212 or 2/2? I don't know what that's about, but someone has scratched that into the back of it. So it's nice, that faceplate. And like I said, that's as far as I'm going with this one. That is all I need to do to take it apart. So the next video on this little ROTEL RA310 will be giving it a service, giving it a deoxin, try and sort the volume out, tightening up the selector, and we'll just run right through it. So if you are interested, that will be the next video coming to the channel, and it will go on here within the next few days. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.